up guys, I'm Mia and this is Sew Girlee Bags. In this video we're gonna make a cutesy trash can for your car. This is gonna be the last project in our car series. We've made a gap filler for your car, a cute little pillow for your armrest that had two little compartments on the side for your car chargers and different things. We've also made a little organizer to hang from the seat of your car, so that way if the kids have something they want to throw into it. So those are some of the things we've made so far in this series, but we're going to end here with this cute little trash can for your car. So this little trash can is going to be made out of 3-inch squares of fabric. You can use any type of fabric that you have. I had a whole bunch of scraps from all the projects that I've made. These are just a ton of 3x3-inch squares, so I just used a whole bunch of scraps that I had to create this. And what I'm going to do is just pin them together, sew them together. I'll give you the measurements in the video, so when I pin them together and sew them together, it's going to look like this. I'm going to make it really girly. I'm going to use a little bit of lace to go around the flap of the little trash can. Sewing the squares together does take a little bit of time, but with a little bit of patience, it comes out really, really cute. You can use this patchwork technique for bags, purses, all sorts of things. After you sew the squares together, this is what it's gonna look like. It's gonna come together really cute. It's gonna be one whole complete panel like this. And so this is gonna be the front panel. I'm also gonna make the back panel similar to this, and then I'm gonna make a flap with the lace on it. So let's get right into it. I'm excited to show you how I made this little trash can, and I can't wait to put it in my car. So let's get started. I grabbed my fabric scraps and I cut them up in 3x3-inch squares. In addition to the fabric, you'll also need a little bit of elastic. I used elastic that's about an eighth of an inch wide. I also used some fusible fleece to go on the back sides of each of the main panels. And I used a little bit of natural jute, but you can use string, or if you have some type of cording, just something that you can sew onto the back of the trash bag so it can hook onto the headrest. And you'll need some bias tape. Cutting all the fabric into 3x3-inch squares does take a little bit of time, but if you take your time, I just folded the fabric several times, and then that makes multiple squares at once, so it makes it a little bit easier. They don't have to be perfect, but because it's just a trash can for the car, a little trash bag, but the neater the better. I did want to make a car visor, but I didn't get around to it. Maybe I'll use some of these extra squares and come up with some sort of visor pattern that will look cute in the car. I tried to find colors of scraps that really worked well together. I purchased a comforter a while back, and the zipper bag that the comforter came in that I have is full of scraps in my sewing room. And so patchwork projects like this are really good to make products with, to give away as gifts for holidays or birthdays, because then you can use some of those scraps that you have. I cut up a little bit over 80 squares. You can use more squares if you want your trash bag to be a little bit bigger, but this was enough. I just wanted to make a small trash bag just to throw paper, receipts, maybe even a little small water bottle or something like that into. I used about 1/4 of an inch seam allowance and sewed 5 squares together to make a row. So I'm gonna make about 5 rows first to make the back panel. And then I'm also gonna sew about 5 rows together to make the front panel. But after looking at the front panel, I decided to make 2 more rows just to attach to the left and right side of the front panel, just to make the opening a little bit larger so that way I can throw more things into the bag. keep going. You are doing great. Even though we're still piecing together 3x3 inch squares, it is a little time consuming, but it's gonna look really cute when it's done. After sewing all 5 pieces together, I made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. One side is going to be the front, one is going to be the back, and then I'm going to make the flap. And that's really going to be it. Sew around it with some bias tape, and that's it, you guys. Our little car trash can is going to be complete. And now I'm just going to open the seams and give them a good pressing. I'm going to make sure any seam that I have on this little project is pressed open. This part is a little time consuming as well, but it just keeps everything nice and flat and no lumpiness throughout whenever you go to adhere the fusible fleece onto the back of these little panels. And also if you have to sew fabric or anything to the back side of it, everything is nice and flat. And now that all 5 back panel rows are done, I'm just gonna go ahead and work on the rows for the front panel and also for the flap. So for the flap, I decided to make it a little bit longer. So I did 6 3x3 inch squares across, and I made 3 horizontal rows to make the flap. Now I'm just gonna pin all the rows together using some pins, and then afterwards I'm just gonna sew all the rows together with about 1/4 inch seam allowance. And here I'm just adding those extra 2 rows on the side of the front panel just to make the opening on the bag a little bit bigger in the front. And now that all 3 panels are complete, we can start working on adding some fusible fleece to the back sides of all 3 panels. So I'm just gonna grab some fusible fleece and just cut out maybe an inch smaller all the way around, so that way you can leave it out of the seam and just press it onto the back sides of all the panels. And now I'm just gonna trim everything down to square everything up. So the back panel I cut 10 by 10.5 inches. I trimmed the front panel down to 11 by 15 inches. And then I just trimmed the flap down 6.5 inches by 12 inches. And then I used those 3 panels to cut out a piece of fabric to go on the back sides of the 2 main panels. And then I'm also going to cut out a piece the same size as the flap. Here I'm just rounding the corners of the 2 main panels, and I'm also going to round the corners of the flap as well. So I just rounded the corners of the bottom of all the pieces. So the bottom of the front, the bottom of the back, and then also the bottom of the flap. After that, I sewed all the way around the front and back main panels, attaching the lining to both pieces. After that, I grabbed my lace and I just clipped it, making little ruffles all the way around the top of the flap with the right side up. And then after that, I'm just going to take the lining piece and place it right over the lace and then clip it all together and sew all the way around using about 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. You do want to leave about a 3-inch opening so that way you can turn the flap inside out. And then I just trimmed off about 1/2 of the seam to eliminate some of the bulk, and then I'm just going to turn it inside out and then give it a good little pressing. After pressing it, I top stitched it all the way around from one side to the other. And then I grabbed some bias tape. If you have a piece of fabric, you can use that instead. Cut it about 1 inch wide. And just what we're going to do is cover up the raw edges on the edges of the entire bag. First, I cut a piece of bias tape to cover the front panel, the top of the front panel. And then what I'm going to do is just fold it down about 1/2 inch and then sew across it because I'm going to run the elastic through the hole. This little plastic threader I got from Joann's. It was very inexpensive, but it just comes in handy when you need to thread something through a hole. So I just tie the elastic on the end of it. It has 2 holes on the end of it, so I tie a knot with the elastic on the end, and then I just run it through the hole. So it just makes it really easy to grab the elastic from the other end. And then after that, I just cut the elastic off of it. But I really enjoy using this whenever I have to thread something through a hole. And then I just sewed across one end where the elastic is just to secure it in place, so that way when I pull on it to make the gathers on the front pocket, it doesn't pull through. And now I'm just going to line the front layer with the back layer and just clip it all the way around. Since the front layer is a little bit bigger, I started with the left side and then lined up the right side, and then I'm gonna make some little folds at the very bottom to make it even all the way around. And that's just gonna create a nice little pocket on the front of the bag. And then I pull the elastic on the other side, and then I'm just going to sew all the way around. I'm going to go over the elastic a few times back and forth just to make sure it's secure and it doesn't come out. just going to add the bias tape all the way around the left side, bottom, and the right side. And then after that, I'm also going to add a little bit across the top of the back panel. And then once that was done, I went ahead and attached the flap. And then after attaching the flap, I folded it over the front of the bag, and then I just sewed down the left and right side about 1 inch just to secure the flap and make it stay closed, and that way I didn't have to add any snaps or anything. It was just an easy way to just keep the flap facing down. And our little cutesy trash bag for the car is complete. I think it turned out super cute. Now I'm just going to take some natural jute that I had. I cut just a long enough piece to be able to tie it around my headrest. I cut 2 pieces, and I'm just going to sew it to the back side on the left and right of the little trash bag so that way I can hook it on in my car on the headrest. Thank you for watching. If you made it to the end of the video, I appreciate you, and I can't wait to use this little trash bag in my car. If you would like another DIY project for your car, watch the next video that's on screen, and I'll see you in that video. Bye.